watched me before, welcome to my channel and welcome to our Monday afternoon conversation. Today we're talking about this idea of settling, not settling because you do get what you settle for in life. And somebody said that to me once. It was actually when I was in, I think it was before I even started grad school. I was working for this therapist. No, I was in grad school. I was working for this therapist and I was dating this guy, and I thought he seemed kind of like, I don't know, rude, or there's something I wasn't sure about him. And I asked her for her opinion, and she said, "Well, you get what you settle for." And I thought, you know what? That's so true. And we've probably all heard that saying 1,000 times, but maybe we never actually took it in. We do get what we settle for. In other words, what she was saying, if you think this guy is rude or you don't really like him now, you can continue dating him and you could settle for it, but then that's what you're going to get. And in life, this is so true in every aspect of our lives. And I usually concentrate on relationships, health, finances, interpersonal growth, because that's what the main things that we worry about in life. We worry about our relationships, we worry about ourselves and our own state of being, we worry about our finances, our health, our money. And so when you think about you can get what you settle for, that really runs the spectrum of pretty much every area of life, right? So let's say you're working in a job and it's not your passion, but pays the bills, but you really wish you were doing something else. Well, if you stay, you get what you settle for, right? And some people are okay with that, but I'm here to encourage people not to be okay with that. I'm here to help people get out of that. I'll just take what I can get into I really want to live in passion. I really want to live my dreams. I really want to live my best life. And that can be a long way to go, right? So if you're here saying, I don't really like what's happening, and this up here is where you want to be, the therapy that gets you to there happens in the middle, right? I always say that therapy is wherever you are now, wherever you want to be, it's everything that happens in between because we have to keep coming back and relearning and relearning and relearning until it becomes part of our default neural pathway and it's how we operate. A lot of my videos go show me practicing dance. I'm a pro am ballroom dancer and I've been studying and practicing dance for about 5 years, and it takes such a long time to learn a certain step or to learn a certain routine because from the time that we do it, our brain recognizes it, we create a neural pathway for our body to move in a certain way. Takes a lot of repetition over and over again. And therapy is the same thing. It's showing up every week or twice a week or once a month, however often you come, and understanding that only through repetition am I going to have change occur. And so when you're feeling like blah, like my life is kind of not where I really want it to be, the idea of being really excited about your life can seem very far away. And I personally have been through this. Most of us alive have been through this. We've been through depressing times, hard times where we really don't know what's happening. We really don't know what's going on. We really don't like what's happening. We're bored in our relationships, or we're bored with our life, or we're settling. And I would say probably 90% of all people settle. And the other 10% of people are the people who have really made incredible strides in their life. Pro athletes, people who run Fortune 500 companies, people who run for office. I'm not saying they're better people as people, but I'm just saying people who want to live extraordinary lives, they don't settle. They just don't. And what an extraordinary life may look like to you may be very different than what it looks like to me. And hopefully it is because we all want different things. We all have different things that we're after. But Most of us just settle, and then we get what we settle for in every aspect of life. So I want you all to think about right now, what in my life am I just settling for? Am I just saying, I'm just going to deal with it? Is it your marriage? Is it the relationship with your children? Is it what you're doing for a living? Is it your financial health? Is it your physical health? Think about all the different areas and ask yourself, am I living an extraordinary life, meaning I'm really excited about these aspects of my life? Or are you just, wow, I always thought my life would be a little bit better than this, or I'm in a really hard time and I can't get out. Write down on a piece of paper right now in front of you, what have you settled for? And really, everything you have in your life is what you've settled for. It doesn't matter what it is. If you wanted to go to the Bahamas for vacation, but instead you wanted to save some money, so you went to Florida, you got what you settled for. If you really wanted this, but you took that, that's settling. So, whatever is happening in your life right now is what you've settled for. And what I want to encourage you today is get to that point where you can aim a little higher. And we can't aim a little higher until we understand what is it that is keeping us in this, well, I'll just settle for this. I'll just accept this. Because 9 times out of 10, what's holding us back from here to here, where we really want to be, what our dreams really are, what's holding us back are old stories, old tapes going around in our heads about things that your family talked to you about when you were little. And these belief systems that that kind of drive us to just settle have been playing over and over and over in your mind, in your reality, in your perspective since the day you could speak, and probably before that. Probably before that. So think about who, what, where, and let's go back to childhood and family because, guys, this is where it's all at. This is where it's at. This is where you got all your belief systems. This is where you got your conditioning. You got it from your parents, your brothers and sisters, your friends. But let's start with mom and dad. Okay. What did you see mom and dad doing when you were a child? Did you see them, working hard jobs and saying, this is life, like just everybody has to work and, this is how life is and it's just doing what you have to do to get by and you can't enjoy because you don't deserve it? Or did you grow up watching your parents follow their dreams? Right? And following dreams could be literally anything, whether you want to be a zookeeper or you want to be president of the United States, you want to own a company, you want to be a therapist, you want to be an athlete, doesn't matter. But did you watch your parents shoot for the stars or did you watch your parents settle? And probably if you're my age and you're watching this show, chances are you probably had parents in a certain generation that did a lot of settling. A lot of settling. So I'm 50 years old. I was born in 75. So people who watch me really range in age. So you could be 25 and watching me. I love it. Awesome. Or you could be 65 and watching me. So we're dealing with a lot of different parental and ancestral influences. Okay. But think about, what did you see your parents doing? Now, I had an interesting message because my mother was a stay-at-home mom for most of my life, not all of it, but she was a stay-at-home mom and my dad was a workaholic. He was always working. So I rarely saw my dad. I understood that, he was working and that he had to work. That's what I was taught. Dads go to work, dads support the family, dads are the providers. Don't bother them. Don't need closeness with them or whatever. They're supporting the family. And my mom, just pretty much took care of four of us in the house and whatever. So I saw my dad, he was achieving a lot of dreams. He did. He really went for it. And but I saw him working so, so hard for it. And my mom was, I don't think I could necessarily say if she was happy or unhappy, but she seemed to just be accepting whatever life was. She didn't complain. She didn't complain that my father was always working. She didn't complain about not having a job. She didn't complain about being dependent, nothing. So I just thought, okay, women kind of just do this and men do that. And that's was my introduction to the world that, this is what women did and this is what men did. And I had 3 brothers, and they were varied in age and they were doing all kinds of fun things. They were into cars and motorcycles and things like that. And I had a younger brother, and he was a mama's boy. So I saw sort of a spectrum, but I had one parent that was really, really driven and achieving things, but was constantly working, and another parent who did not work and was just sort of she seemed to me to just be accepting what was. Maybe you could say she was settling, maybe not. I don't know. She didn't seem ecstatic and she didn't seem sad. So I think most women in 1975, whether they wanted to do something or not, it was a little men's worked and the women didn't. Now we've obviously changed tremendously in 50 years, but so think about your parents. Did you see both of them working? Did you see one of them working? Did you see them complaining that there's never enough money? Did you see them spending and traveling? Did you know how did you see money? How did you understand that money comes to you? Did you play sports? Did your parents encourage you to go after things that you were um, interested in outside of school or not? Because whatever your parents laid down for you is probably a little bit, it is a blueprint. It is a blueprint for you today. The question I'm asking is it the same blueprint or is it a different one? And if you are settling or just accepting your life as is when it's really not what you want in one area or the other, we have to really look and understand, well, why don't you have a belief system that says go for it? And you usually hear things like, well, someone has to pay the bills and I need money and all these practical things that obviously are true, but they're not the whole answer. They're not the whole answer. So the next question, once you've established, okay, what were my mom and dad doing? What were they showing? What was I seeing as I was growing up? What were my brothers and sisters doing? Is what were you told that you were allowed to do or should be doing or shouldn't be doing? Because if you travel back there, you're going to go, oh, that's where it came from. And I'm telling you guys, this stuff comes from early days. This comes from the minute you start understanding the world, you start taking in right and wrong, what you should and shouldn't be doing. And as children, we tend to be thinking very freely, like anything's possible. And, I love everything and I love everybody. But then as we absorb these messages, the reality of what could be, in our imagination to what we wind up settling for is usually huge, because if it wasn't, everybody in the world would be out there making their dreams happen. Everybody would. But most people don't. And the reason they don't is because somebody sent them a message that it wasn't acceptable. So, for example, I have many clients over the years that had immigrant parents, which would be very typical for this time of year. I mean, excuse me, for this time of society when we're talking I'm 50, so let's say I have clients that were born, in the 60s. That was born in 75, someone's born in the 60s. And you had immigrant parents. So what you would be likely to see is your parents working their tails off. Immigrants often couldn't get good jobs. They immigrated, they didn't have the language, they had to take what they could get. They had to take whatever jobs they could get. Some became entrepreneurs, some went on to be very successful, but as a whole, if we look at what was going on in society at the time, You would have been watching your parents grinding, grinding it out and saying, "Oh, the only way I get money is if I work really, really hard for it, if I work like a slave, and I only deserve things if I work very, very hard for them." And this is the American way. I don't think what I'm saying is so foreign. It's just how often do we really sit down and pick this apart? So when you start thinking about, oh, yeah, I did get these messages, jot them down on a piece of paper because you can't change what you don't acknowledge. So by acknowledging, okay, these are the messages I got, this is what I saw, then we can do something with it, right? Then we can start making the changes that we want to make, hopefully, right? But you can see that we're almost trained to settle. We're trained to accept what is. We're trained to sort of surrender and say, this is the best I can do, or this is how you live life because this is what I was shown and this is what I've always done. And I think the upcoming generations are really different. I think they're looking at life different. And my generation and the older generations are going, are these kids crazy? But actually, I think they're smart because a lot of the newer generation, they believe in work life balance. And, my generation would think, what is this crazy? Right. But actually, there's something to that. And we're going to get there today. So by now, you should have some picture of, okay, this is what was going on. This is what I saw. This is how I was raised. This is what I was conditioned to believe. And then look at your life today and see where those patterns still happening. Getting back to my immigrant clients, my clients that were children of immigrants, they were often told, especially the female ones, that women were not supposed to work. I mean, American women were told the same thing, but there was a really strong emphasis on dad being the provider and women, you should get married. I mean, I was told that. I was told that. I mean, my aunt told me, "Ugh, what do you need college for? Just marry a guy, marry a rich man." you know, well, that didn't happen. And oops, and so, and my mother pushed education on me for sure. But I think in my generation growing up, the parents were pushing you to get hitched, right? Find the right guy to marry, find the right gal to marry, have a couple of kids, just accept, life, you work hard and that's it, right? It's broken down very simple. But there's so many nuances to life. And I look at so many people and I listen to the way they think and I see how they're blocking themselves from extraordinary lives, from aiming high, because they're living too much in what they were taught and shown as children and not listening to who they really have become as their own individual person. How about that? And I've sat with enough people, men and women, over the years from I've worked in different communities, I've worked in different cultures. And one thing that crosses every group of people is this that I'm talking about, that we tend to create the life that we were shown. Now, some people really go like hard opposite if they really hated their childhood or really hated what their parents stood for. But most of us will believe all these different stories and believe all these different messages. And then we're blocked and we're wondering, well, why can't I do this? Or why can't I do that? And I think men and women have different blocks as well from society. So I think that women still, especially in my age group and younger, we still kind of think we can't make it on our own without a man. That's still in the background. That what a woman would have to do to be completely independent and create a good life would be women are doing it. It's becoming easier and easier. But even at my age, growing up for us, we were mostly taught in general, exceptions to every rule, that, women are only going to go so far. Make sure you marry a man who can provide for you. Right. And I think you can go across culture and you're going to find that's the same sentiment. So today is the wake up call. It's the ask. What messages and what stories have you been told that you've been holding on to forever that might be holding you back from where you actually want to go in your life? There's a lot, right? So the one I said about women kind of feel like, I know I can do it, but it'd be easier if I had, a husband to do this. No matter what I may feel in the relationship. Like if I told you the number of couples that have told me the only reason they're staying together is for money, I would be wealthy. I hear that all the time. Well, I have to say it's financially doesn't make sense, or for the kids, it doesn't make sense. So we have all of these layers and layers and layers of messages that unfolds that we allow to take us into that settlement. I'm going to just settle for this because it's what I was taught I was supposed to do. And this is what good people do, or this is what hardworking people do. And if I deviate from that in some way, then I'm not going to be acceptable. And this is why so many people come into therapy feeling unworthy and feeling undeserving and don't even realize that they feel that way, or get very threatened by a spouse who does feel that way when they don't, or feels very held back by a spouse who doesn't feel this way when they do. So it's a world view. It's how was I taught to see the world by my parents, by my brothers and sisters, by my family, by society, right? And this is what I really want to get to you today so that you can write it down and identify what are these belief systems that we really need to change in order for me to reach my destination where I want to be and get where I want to go. So even for example, let's say um I'll use myself as an example. I did not go to graduate school until I was 30, and I didn't take up ballroom dancing until I was 45 or 46. Think about it, right? I was taught in my family, like, okay, you have to go to school and then you have to go to college and you have to get married and you have to have a bunch of kids and then you have to buy a house and then you have to do this. I did none of those things. I'm the most unconventional person you can meet, right? I'm very independent. I've traveled a lot. I've lived a completely different life than what my parents, I think, had originally set out for me. But it's been wonderful. It's been what I've wanted to do. I wanted to do those things. Now, someone else could look at my life and say, well, that's way too much for me. I just like steady Eddie. I want to just live in the same house for 20 years and pop out some kids and raise a family and you know, stay in the middle. And that's great too. It doesn't matter what you want. There's never going to be a right or wrong for that. It's going to be a right or wrong for you. And if you're my age or really any age and you're frustrated with your life and you want to know why you're feeling stuck or why you can't aim high, it's because of all of this. It's because everything you saw, everything you felt, everything you were taught. So once you identify those things, then we can realize, well, wait a minute, maybe that's not true. Maybe you don't have to buy it immediately and throw everything you were taught out the door. I'm not saying to do that, but maybe you can start challenging yourself. Well, let me see if I do this, what would happen? Let me see if I try this, if I like it. And I always ask my clients, what are you passionate about? What's your passion? And people have all kinds of things. Well, I always wanted to be a baseball player. I always wanted to own a restaurant, or I always wanted to try dancing, or I always wanted to do art, or I always wanted to travel. And no matter what age they have been, and I've had all ages in my office, I always encourage and push people to take those chances. Because if you don't aim high, you will never get anywhere. It's very simple. You get exactly what you settle for. So if you stop settling and say, you know what, I'm not settling for this boring life I have, I want more, you'll get it. You will. It might take some time. There's a journey that we all have to take in order to get what we want, but you will eventually start having a more exciting life because you will have at least shown yourself that I can do this. And you absolutely can. It is never, ever too late, especially in today's world. It's never too late to switch careers. It's never too late to follow a passion. Some of us, because of the practical side of life, may need a partner to help them, a spouse, someone to help with the finances of the practical side of it. But that's what partnership's about. And when you can utilize your family and your partnerships to help get you where you want to be, you'll be very pleased and surprised of where you're going to end up. But you have to aim high because you get what you settle for. So another example, I mean, I've done so many different things, but when I used to dance as a child. My mother had me in dance class as soon as I could walk, basically. And so I took ballet, tap, jazz from age like 3 till I was 13. So I did a lot of dancing as a child. Never took it that seriously. I loved it. And I would go to dance camps. It made me happy, but I never really was competitive as a kid. I didn't want to compete. I just wanted to do it. And I love to sing and I love to act and I didn't care if I was any good. I just loved to do it. And then when I got into high school, I just sort of, you know, got into boys and having fun and I totally lost focus. And then at 45 years old, a friend just randomly, not even someone I'm that close with, just randomly invited me to a dance class at a real dance studio, which I had no idea. I just went for the fun of it. And I walked into a whole new chapter of my life that has completely changed my life and has brought so much joy and so much pleasure to my life that I could never put into words how much I love dancing. Became a pro-am dancer, started performing, started competing. I took a little time off. Now back in training, and it is the joy point of my life. But if I had had the attitude of, "Well, I'm 45 years old, why am I gonna take this up now?" Or "It's too expensive," or "No, I shouldn't do this," which is what a lot of people do, then you would never have the incredible experiences that I've had in my life and that you too can have tomorrow if you want them. And people, "Well, I'm too old." Says who? "Oh, I don't have time." Says who? All of these excuses and reasons why we shouldn't aim high do not come from you. They come from your parents, your family, your society, the generation you grew up in, and that is it. And when you realize that all of that is just an illusion, it's just an illusion, it's not real. And you say, hey, you know what? Today I can start doing this, or I can change my marriage, or I can change my life, or I can change my health, or I can change my physical appearance, or whatever it is that you want to do. The minute you say that, you've already changed. It just takes a split second to move in that direction. It's like in dancing. You can be dancing forward, and all you have to do to change direction is turn your body and go in a different direction. That's it. And you can go in a different direction again. And when we're good dancers, we learn how to change direction really quickly and really um, precisely and smoothly. And in life, we can do that too. So, what is it that you feel that you would like to change in your life? And you don't have to tell anyone about it or write it down on that same piece of paper. What is it that you've always wanted to try, but you never did? Roller skating, bungee jumping, cooking, yoga, travel, whatever, fashion, whatever it is. I always really wanted to be. this, right? I always had a dream I could be this, but I never did it. Why? Oh, because I had to work hard and I had to pay the bills and my husband was this. I'm saying that's all an illusion. So once you realize that and you start taking some risks and aiming high, change is immediate. You may not have the immediate results, but you'll have immediate shift in direction. That's all it takes. Boom. If I'm dancing going forward and I want to go to the right, I turn my body and I step to the right. This is like life. And especially if you're one of those people in their 60s, let's say, who's worked their whole life, saved up a bunch of money, and have done nothing for yourself. You've given it all to your children and now your grandkids or your house or whatever. And you're like, God, here I am. My life is three-quarters of the way over, and I've never traveled. I've never played an instrument. I've never done this. Do it, please, and aim high. Aim high and let your passion follow your passion, because passion is just a message from your soul to you. Yes, please, I like this. Our desires in our hearts don't come out of the blue. They come because our soul's talking to us. Yes, I want this. Yes, I want to try that. Yes, I'd love to do that. And the only thing that stands in between us and that is the illusory messages and stories that we got from parents, society, schoolmates, friends, et cetera, et cetera. So I love hearing stories about how people changed direction in their life, or how people busted through an old belief system or an old story and started aiming for something really extraordinary instead of just settling, and said, you know what? I deserve this. I am worthy of this. You have to believe that too. And I always talk about worthiness being a human issue because a lot of times we don't really think we're worthy. And that's a whole nother show. But that comes also from our childhood, our marriages, right? Well, I didn't work hard enough, so I don't deserve to have that. Or I made this mistake, so I can't allow myself to do this. You have to get over all that. And it takes time. And that's where therapy comes in, right? So, therapy can be very helpful for people who are looking to make changes and to stop settling. And we can, and I say this every week too, when we start to make changes, they don't have to be huge, grand, things. They can be small things like, I'm going to start choosing what I want to do no matter what anyone else says. And it sounds easy, but it's not. I'm going to do this because I believe that this is what I've always wanted to do, and this makes me feel passionate, so I'm going to do it. And then when you do it, you feel such a high, such a gratitude and joy for life, that then you just keep doing more and more of it. But if you never give it a shot and you never aim bigger, you're just never going to go there, right? You're just going to say, oh, it's too late for that. I'm too old for that. I don't deserve that. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the way to do it. But if you start talking to people and asking people in your family or asking friends, hey, can you help me with this? Usually there's someone out there who will say yes. And now, with all the information we have available to us through the internet, AI, um, sometimes with AI, I love it so much. And sometimes I'll just say, hey, I really want to study this subject today. And I'll just start exploring. And before you know it, I'm learning so much. And we all have an opportunity at this time in our lives, and being alive at this time, where literally there's nothing off limits to us anymore. The only things that are off limits to us are the things that we say are. But right now, the way life is, man, you could dive into anything. So much time can be saved through using AI. So much of the mundane, and I know it's a controversial subject, but I happen to love it. Um, it's just new and different. So people are scared. So they're dooming it, they're catastrophizing it, but it'll be like everything else in the world. It'll be a neutral thing, right? People thought the internet was going to blow up the world. No, everything's neutral. It's just how we use it. And there will be people who will use it well, and there will people who will not. And we will have to deal with that. But for the average person who wants to enhance their lives, my goodness, you can learn about anything. You can learn how to do anything now. So, what's holding you back? It's just the blocks in your thinking and your belief systems that have been given to you by parents, siblings, sisters, brothers. And we have to identify what those belief systems are so that we can make changes because perception is reality. And the only way we can change our perception is by changing old stories and messages and saying, "Oh, wait a second, my mom always said that. I didn't say that. My mom said that to me." And you can remember too, like I still catch this all the time, just during the day, how I think about things. I'll hear myself with a thought and I'll say, "What? Why would you think that?" Oh, my mother used to say that all the time. But I don't really believe that. Or, you know what? I remember my family saying this, but actually I feel this way. And you have to identify the different voices in a way in your head so that you can get clear about what is actually your authentic voice versus everyone else that you've been brought up around. And that's quite a task. It's not easy, but I'm here to help. And these are some of the wonderful things that going to therapy can do for you. You don't have to go to therapy just because, therapy isn't just for people who are depressed or going through a hard time. Some people come just to get to know themselves better, just to learn how to live a more aware life, have more of a awareness upgrade. And when your awareness upgrades, your joy upgrades, your relationships upgrade, your relationship with yourself will upgrade, things you like to do will upgrade, things you accomplish will upgrade, right? Because when you start opening it up and removing these blocks, these stories, these old beliefs, you realize, oh my God, I could do anything I want. And you experience freedom. But sometimes we need a guiding hand and someone who's professionally trained to help people do this, which of course I am. So if you would like to work with me, it's not just for people who are sad and have been traumatized. It can be people who are bored, who are just sick of the same old, who are waking up and realizing, hey, I never did this one thing that I really wanted to do. How do I get there? How do I enhance my life? How do I improve it? Right? Therapy is just not for the down, the people going through crisis and trauma. It's for everybody and anybody who just wants to live a more meaningful life, I would say, a more meaningful life. So, if you would like to work with me and you would like to explore some of your belief systems, some of the old messages that you grew up with, some of the old stories that you'd like to shake off that aren't really you, but maybe come from your family or your cultural background or society, I'm easy to find. Upliftmeliz.com is my website. My phone number is on the sessions page, it's on the contact page, and you can just click and call, or you can put my number in your phone, send me a text and say, "Hey, Liz, I'd like to get started." Um, I ask people to text me opposed to email because my emails get flooded with so much junk. I miss things. So if you're serious about talking with me about how to get started, send me a text message. I have all kinds of different intensive programs for people. Of course, I work with grieving people, people reconstructing their lives after loss, people struggling with addiction, and people who just want to improve themselves and get to know themselves better, right? Everyone and anyone can be a client in my office. And therapy can be really exciting and enjoyable and a wonderful journey, expanding yourself and aligning with your true self. It doesn't have to be just for something sad. And that's something that I think is very important to say. So, thank you all for being here today. Thank you for watching with me. I appreciate the support. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe so you get notifications of everything I'm doing and you don't miss any lives or any events. And I'm actually teaching a class. I'm starting a whole new series of classes called The Art of Becoming Your True Self. And class one is going to be on Thursday, July 9th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. So you can join wherever in the world you are. It's I'm opening at a very nominal fee of $25 so anyone can access it. And it's called Choosing Yourself. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty about how to continuously choose your authentic self over the conditioned self. How do I know when it's my voice talking or someone else is talking? And then how do I follow my own voice? This is a lot trickier than you might think. So I have all these exciting things coming up. So make sure that you subscribe, you check out my website, upliftmeliz.com. And I'm on social media almost 7 days a week on Facebook, Elizabeth Statlander, Instagram, Uplift Me, Eliz.Miami. My business is Uplift Me, and I'm very easy to find. I'm everywhere. Come follow me, join me on this journey, and aim high. Don't forget, you get what you settle for. So aim high. Love you guys. See you next time.